The Strokes, Is This It? Today, we are doing an episode on that exact album, and this will be a music podcast brought to you by Go Home Heat. Is that correct? Hosted by me, Ray, and
Jared.
And
I'm not hosting.
Okay, cool.
You're the guest.
KP.
You're the reoccurring guest.
Yes.
Contributor.
Yes. This album, incredibly important.
Kind of fundamental for the way that
Just
rock and
indie,
roll...
Just indie in general.
Just
was treated.
indie in general.
And when this album dropped, Last Night and Someday were the big singles that came out. And everyone was like, oh, this is crazy. And then they just started indie stuff, White Stripes come to mind, Arctic Monkeys come to mind. Even Neutral Milk Hotel got popular because of this album. If it weren't for this album, a lot of those MU, Pitchfork, those type of crowds would not be as popular as they are today within music circles.
It formed a bridge to a lot of the smaller...
Absolutely.
An interesting piggyback off of that is sometimes when you have a watershed moment for a band getting signed, it creates a certain small sound that is important, and people go look for bands like that. In this particular case, they just went and looked for indie bands, which meant you had many different types of music coming into the record label fold. If
you take, say, Arctic Monkeys, White Stripes, and like I just said, Neutral Milk Hotel, those sounds are all vastly different. Arctic Monkeys is more Britpop influenced. White Stripes is a blues, and Neutral Milk Hotel is kind of their own thing. They're acoustic, And what I find fascinating is Neutral Milk Hotel and The Airplane Over the Sea came out before Is This It? And a lot of these albums that came out before Is This It got popular because of Is This It?
Yeah, as soon as you go,
it had coattails for sure that people could ride on.
And rightly so, in all honesty.
And I think think a lot of the appeal from this album comes okay, I'm gonna sound like a nerd, but from Weezer's like Weezer's Blue Album, how you could have made this album. And Weezer's Blue Album, or even like most punk records, if you want a mainstream example, Dookie, you can make that record and there is a connection there because it does have relatable feelings of being tired, of just life beating you up in general. Just
somewhat disillusionment of modern urban youth life.
You have a group of Manhattanites.
Don't call them that. Don't call them...
Julian Casablancas as the frontman. Which
is a great name,
dude,
by the way.
It's so cool. That dude was made to be
straight
a
up
frontman.
And you know what's funny? He was wasn't he the kid of a record executive? But he actually wasn't a record executive. He just owned a record store. And people said that he was an industry plant because his dad owned a record store.
Well, there was a record. There was Casablanca Records. So you could see where somebody could get all that mixed up, you know what I mean? Kind of screw it all up. He owned a record store. No, he's with Casablanca Records. Oh, wait.
Hey, wait a second.
No, that's not.
No.
No.
And the Strokes have been, and their kind of discography has been very known as, from the mainstream, of course. Many people like the second album, Room on Fire. A lot of people dislike a lot of the stuff in between that. Their most infamous album is certainly The Come Down Machine. And their most recent album was, to me, actually, a really cool... It's the first album since Is This It that I can separate from Is This It. And that's possibly the highest compliment I can give it.
You feel like they were macking on their own flavor with some of their later albums? Or some of their albums after this?
Well, it's Room on Fire is This It? And because it's Is This It, it's still great, but it's not as great as Is This It. And the rest of their stuff, some of the stuff, sometimes they got rid of the effects, and it really kind of wounded them. Some of them had some trash, some of them had some good stuff. It's very spotty. Very spotty discography.
Okay.
And this is certainly, again, one of those bands that will always be overviewed by their debut album. Guns N' Roses
came out swinging on Is This It?
Yeah.
They really did hit that cultural moment. You know?
Yeah.
So good. All right. Moving on
to the questions.
Do we want to move on to the questions?
Yes.
Unless we want to name off some people who were also going to be overshadowed by their debut record.
No, we don't have to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you just want.
You just don't want me to say Guns N' Roses, do you?
You already did.
Yeah, I did.
You can say it again if you want.
Yeah.
But now, okay, so how'd you feel about the opener?
The opener.
Self-titled.
Self-titled opener.
I think it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it really starts the album off on the right foot with the emotions and the general feeling of asking a question like, is this it? Because when you get into being an adult in your early 20s and you kind of settle into how life is going to be, even if it's maybe a little inaccurate, you have to ask yourself, well, is this it?
Is this all it is? I've been looking forward to this. I thought this was going to matter. I turned 21. That was really cool. Now I'm 24. What?
I'm 24.
Is there anything left?
Not making connections like I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And even
just the deeper feelings.
It's almost like, is this all?
Yes, exactly. Is this it?
And even if you can't relate to it, it does audibly have that sound of being tired, and
it also is exactly what you're getting into in this album.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It is a perfect, both lyrically and instrumentally, example of where we're going with the record. Okay. Now, how did you feel about the closer?
Take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I liked the.
I loved I love Casablanca's. How would you say yelps?
This out of all of the songs on the album felt the most punk-like.
Yeah, it
had a bit of an edge to it.
You're right.
And the almost like yelping is part of that.
The less of an explanation, more of a pointed.
Yeah.
Yes, pointed. Upset about something.
Frustration.
Rather than the general melancholy.
Not an explanation, a frustration.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so we liked it though.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. How do you feel about Julian's vocals on this?
I think
the effects do a very good job of almost completely negating his flaws as a singer, and just
it helps him.
Because on some later albums, like for instance, First Impression, sometimes they kind of got rid of the vocals, and it's just like he just kind of sounds like gross on a lot of those, and that's not because there are no effects to hide his imperfections and his problems, And I feel like the effects and just like the effects on this album in general are so good at kind of hiding Julian's flaws as a vocalist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you hit that on the head right there. Jared, you want to piggyback or?
No, that was about it. I was going to say that I think that the effects on his vocals and his vocals feel very authentic and add to the general feel of the album quite well.
I will also add to this, I do like his kind of howls on songs like The Modern Age, where it is a very, you can hear it in his voice, and he's kind of breaking but not a lot. Okay, anyways, what's the next question?
Favorite and least favorite tracks. So what's your least favorite track on the record?
I don't know. I know I sometimes have trouble with this question. If I feel like the album is of like generally pretty even quality with some higher spots, I feel like this album is pretty consistent. I feel like it's a little hard for me to point at like one specific album and be like, well, I don't think this one lived out, because I think they all hit the average pretty well.
Right.
And I think there's definitely a couple songs that I really like, but I don't think there's one that I
would like to give a special shout out to the big 3-song combo of Someday, Alone Together, Last Night.
Absolutely.
I think that was probably my favorite stretch on the album. I was going to say that I think Last Night would probably be one of my favorites.
I love Last Night.
So good.
I can't help it. It stinks to always pick. It stinks when you wind up picking the radio hit.
Yeah.
You don't want to. You want to feel like.
Well,
that
Someday's
guy,
a radio hit too.
I'm that guy. You know what I mean? I know what's really cool about this, but it turns out that everybody was right on this. That song's really good, and nothing's wrong with the other ones. Like you said, the floor is really high on this record. I
also feel like I really liked the solo on Last Night. That's one of my personal
I was going to point that
favorite solos of the 2000s.
The guitar work on this is unique.
So good.
It's so
really,
I
really
love the way
good.
that dude plays guitar. I don't remember his name, but I think he's super underrated.
Nicola Frattura
Is that his name?
or Fabrizio Moretti?
Fabrizio Moretti, Nicholas Fatur, and Julian Casablanca.
They got some
They
names.
got really cool names.
Yeah,
I do. I feel like I do need to shout out because we do talk a lot about vocalists, but man, the guitar work was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
The drums were really good.
The bass
Like
picked out when it needed to.
They're a
Yes.
sound together. It's a band.
It is a package, and they
Right.
managed to write melodies and hooks that are great.
Right.
They get stuck in your head immediately, like Soma.
Right.
Soma gets stuck in my head constantly.
Right. I also feel like...
And there is something about this album that feels undeniably classic and iconic, because every song is so kind of cathartic with its energy and its brightness.
And everything
Absolutely.
serves the song. You don't have... Sometimes with... And I love virtuosos, but sometimes with virtuoso-style players, they kind of outdo the song. And everything here is purposely into the song to push the song forward.
I love how his
Right.
guitar it kind of bridges the gap between crunchy and clean.
Because his guitar is a very clean sound.
Yeah, but it's also it has that little bit of crunch to it that I love.
Okay, did you want to go ahead and rate it?
God, I feel like I give every album an 8 out of 10. I almost want to give this one a 9 though.
You're going to give it a 9.
8.5.
8.5.
8 and a quarter.
8 1/4, 8 2/5,
8 and 2/5.
8 squared.
So I'm giving this album a 64 out of 10.
Yes. That's tough because it's certainly one of my favorites out of the 2000s. It is probably one of the best debut albums ever made.
Super influential. Opened the door for a lot of other people to walk through. A lot of other music to walk through.
This is tough.
What are you feeling?
8 to a 9. 8 to a 9.
I do agree with you that I said to him yesterday. I give it an 8. It's very good. It's just I understand if somebody likes it better than I do. I also enjoy it. You know what I mean? But it's it is absolutely what they were trying to accomplish.
Oh yeah, in terms of like their vision in their head being translated onto.
And for this group of people, it's perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just not perfect for me.
Yeah.
But it's very, very. I enjoy it. I don't. You know how I am. I don't want to poo-poo it at all. It's fantastic.
No. But like, man, I've been vibing with higher energy stuff in more recent times. So it's kind of hard for me to switch gears to that low energy, more melancholy thing.
But it kind of felt good to get back to it.
Yes, absolutely. Because again, a lot of the bands that had the door kicked open for them through this album, I really, really like.
Right.
I hear the slight influence in the sound on later stuff that came out later, and roughly the same genre, indie.
Because like you pointed out, it's a watershed moment. You know what I mean? Like they're the hot indie band. Hot indie bands isn't necessarily what we're trying to push. They get signed, boom, we have this huge thing, and then, like you said, they go back and you find these other bands,
White
and
Stripes,
it doesn't wind
all
up
these.
being like when Seattle happens, you wind up with Creed and Puddle of Mud and all these bands that kind of sort of sound like they're trying to be that.
Yeah.
This isn't that. This is a watershed moment for a variety of different sounds because they just go get indie bands and not go get an a certain sound. Like they don't go, we're going to get the Manhattan sound, right?
I did want to talk briefly about there's 2 slightly different versions of the record. In one of them, New York City Cops.
Right.
That song got replaced. I did go and listen to it. Pretty good stuff.
Right, got replaced due to 9/11.
Due to 9/11, yes. Not great timing on that.
Right.
Yeah, very poor, actually.
But I do like the song.
Mhm.
It sounds really good.
Absolutely.
Guitar works.
And it's
excellent on
about
that one.
it's about the murder of
We're not
a
gonna go
young
into
man in 1999 by 4 police officers, and you can see where in a time where New York Police Department hats, fire department hats were selling all over the country because of what the country had gone through with the 9/11 tragedy, terrorist act, that they would pull it because that's the opposite of the. There was I remember we did a thing where they were talking about how many songs were suddenly pulled off the radio just to kind of keep people chilled as much as possible. It was just a really weird time.
Some of them were strange, like obla di, obla da. What? Why would you? What was it? The Life Goes On bit? Like what? Like I get some of them, like Aeroplane, but
well, I mean, it was a incredibly sensitive time.
Yeah,
obla di, obla da may have.
But what did we give it? You gave it a strong 8 to a 9, right? Or 8.5?
Like a little over 8, I'd say.
You gave it a 8.
8.
I gave it I think I said an 8 to a 9, so an 8.5.
Well, if you gave it 8.5, then I'm giving it a 7.
I actually gave it a 6.
I'd like to amend mine to an 8.266666, repeating, of course.
Nice.
I'd actually give it an 8 2/5.
That's fair.
Fair enough. Okay.
Anyways, our actual scores were: he gave it an 8.
KP
gave it an 8. Ray gave it Ray gave it a 8.5. Jared gave it an 8.5 as well.
I'll go down to an 8 if we do it by half, because I think it's a little closer to an 8 than 8.5, if that makes sense.
Okay. Excellent. But we really enjoyed the week of listening to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah, we got that.
We're gonna go a little out of our box, a little out of not our comfort zone, but what this podcast has been doing as of recently. We're doing a hip hop album. This one's gonna surprise you. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill by Miss Lauryn Hill. This is one that if my mom played that thing a lot when like in the car, Dad knows. Big Lauryn Hill fan. Fugees was great. All that was great. We are going to do fairly introspective hip hop album.
Dude, the Fugees were just such a influential band, both as a band and as Wyclef separately, from Lauryn Hill separately, from Pras separately. It's just amazing what they were able to accomplish. And like you said, Lauryn Hill.
And this is by far the most popular and Lauryn Hill is by far the most popular out of all of them.
She ain't by far more popular than Wyclef.
Wyclef had his moments.
Wyclef is a genius.
Okay, but The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is by far the most popular album out of all of those three.
Take it back.
I'll take it back.
No, I think that's true.
Yeah, that's actually,
take it back.
That's actually very true.
Yeah, I do think that.
Did we listen to anything cool this week?
I did. I actually, actually because I wanted to try out. I tried out the new System of a Down. Which is crazy to me how I never thought I'd see the day they'd come back. Mostly because they had some political disagreements, and that's what their entire
Those things
band,
are hard to overcome.
especially when your band is that politically
charged anyway.
And I think this album is about, because there has been some stuff going on in Armenia, and System of a Down have worn their Armenian pride proudly on their shoulders. Some stuff has been going down in Armenia, and these new songs, Protect the Land and Genocidal Humans, are the two new songs. And I think they're pretty good. I think they do a mixture of Toxicity, Steal This Album, System of a Down, and Hypnotize and Mesmerize, System of a Down. I think I do love the vocal melodies between Serge and Darren.
We did mention that Serge does not do the gymnastics that he once did anymore.
Well, he's older. He can't always do those.
It happens to the best of us.
And I feel like
this guy.
And I actually think I liked Genocidal Humans a lot more, because it was a lot more leaning towards the Toxicity system.
Sabu guy.
No.
I was gonna make that joke. You have no idea how I was structuring it in my head, but you made it before me. That's fair. You do it.
This match was not match. Sorry,
switched into wrestling mode. There.
Right.
Yeah, I have two modes in my brain for this podcast.
Serge is super over. Now, we did flip.
But okay,
go ahead.
I was going to talk more about Okay, this was surprisingly Genocidal Humans. The song I'm talking about. It was a lot more catered towards the Toxicity era, self-titled era. Self-titled is songs like Sugar, Toxicity, of course, Toxicity, Chop Suey. it does lean a lot more towards that. I'm surprised about the blast beat though. There was a blast beat section. It was very kind of black metal-esque blast beat, which was it's super pounding and heavy, and I love that about it.
So System of the Down does not, in fact, suck.
I thought that was. I thought
It's kind of a bold statement to make. I don't know about that.
I thought that was a joke.
It was a joke for years. Now,
no, it wasn't for years.
For a year, singular.
Yeah.
Now we went to the record store.
Yeah, we did
Yesterday, the Revolver Records record store. I have been going there on Fridays with my guy here, Ray, and we thumbed through the Gorillaz.
Yes,
album.
Song Machine. Song Machine Season 1.
And we wound up listening to it on my phone, actually, on the drive home. Pretty doggone good.
Yeah.
They don't do bad.
Yeah, especially when you're like the Gorillaz and you can do features. Dad said this. You can just like get different people, and it's like De La Soul won't sound like Del the Funky Homo Sapien,
which won't sound like Beck, which won't sound like Elton John, which won't sound like. So you wind up getting to have these neat mergers with a steady. But they're so good.
That's the strength of Gorillaz.
They're so good. Absolutely.
And, I actually did. Okay.
North 12th Avenue is where that store is located. 2050. Eric Jones.
I don't.
Ask him how it's going.
Pensacola,
if you're in
Florida.
Pensacola, FLA.
I don't.
Go ahead, buddy.
Anyways, I did try out Arctic Monkeys Humbug because before I listened to Humbug, I listened to 3 Arctic Monkeys album. Those were the first 2 in AM. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. Favorite Worst Nightmare and AM. This one was really good. It was really Humbug was really good. It was really gloomy. It was kind of the more lucid elements of your favorite Worst Nightmare, kind of put into a full album. I feel like and with this hindsight of Humbug, I feel like Favorite Worst Nightmare was a combination of Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not, and Humbug, and it was kind of, you could easily tell the transition they were making into more lucid stuff and more stuff like that, and it was really good. It was really good. It's probably my 3rd favorite Arctic Monkeys album. If you want to know how I'd rank them, I'd probably rank them worst to best. There is not really a worst. I liked all of them. AM, Humbug, favorite worst, and it's a tie up here between Favorite Worst Nightmare and Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not.
Did you ever listen to Tranquility Base?
I have not. No, haven't yet.
I quite like it. I like the vibe of it. It's quite good.
Is that a rap?
I would imagine. I think that's a rap.
Miss Lauryn Hill.
Speaking of raps, we're doing... that was awful.
Dude, I like it.
Gotta end with a zinger, huh?
That was a zinger.
This has been a Go Home Heat production, copyright 2020.
Go home.
Jared.
For you.
KB.
And me, Ray.
Go home.
Go home.